and useful, I would assume, learning experience. Okay. Hi, Jessica. Welcome. Just mentioning the protocol. So I'm glad to see that you're muted for right now. It doesn't mean you must remain muted. There is a class participation component. So we want you to absolutely not have to be stuck in a muted situation. I'm just going to go ahead and we'll discuss a few things. I'm going to share my screen. We'll look at the course outline. But first of all, most of you have taken the research literacy course, and the objective of the research literacy course is to become research literate, research minded, understand how to use research in order to make a decision when we engage in practices. And that can be anything, whether it's restorative care, recreation aid, um, whether you're an OTA or a PTA, um, whatever your role might be. How do you use evidence to do that? And that's the whole idea. Now, that's wonderful, and you develop a certain skill set going through research literacy, but the objective of this course is to actually put that into practice, to actually think about how you would conduct research, to plan, to understand it in a little more detail. There will be some overlap between the two courses in the sense that you will still be acquainted with looking at papers, understanding the role of authority and so on. But you'll actually start to do exercises such as operationalize theories. You will talk about, identify independent dependent concepts. You'll start looking at how to represent data. We'll do a little more statistics in this course. When I say statistics, this is a nice, gentle gerontological variety, so don't be turned off. It's not going to be hard stats. We'll just do a little bit so everyone has an idea of what they're reading and looking at. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen so we look at the course outline, understand what is going to be in front of us. So it's there has been content posted on D2L now that you can look at. One of the things you have is when you look at your D2L page and you look under table of contents, there is your course outline. So you can go ahead, look at your course outline. It tells you what to expect in the course. So the course outline is it's specified lecture by lecture as to what we're doing. It follows your textbook. Your textbook is at the bottom here. It tells you the research process, 4th edition, and it tells you the name of the authors. This is from Oxford University Press. If you have any difficulty finding the textbook, send me an email and I can help you further, but you should not have too much difficulty finding it. Again, this is on D2L. You can just go on D2L and find it. If you have already purchased the textbook from the bookstore, then you're all set. And if you haven't and you need it in a rush, they have an e-copy. I really like the e-copy. I'm starting to stop buying physical copies. I'm not saying anybody has to do that, but it's I don't know. I mean, I think I have enough paper in the house. I don't need more. So that's the method of determining final grades. So there will be a midterm exam for 40%. There will be a class participation mark of 20%, and there's a final exam of 40%. Both the midterm and the final exam will be multiple choice, and we will use the D2L Respondus lockdown browser to be able to complete those exams. Any students with accommodation requirements, those letters need to come to me from Accessibility Services, and you will be accommodated as is recommended on your letter. Okay. Academic integrity, this refers to all kinds of different things. In this case, in this particular course, there are no essays. There will be no write-ups. So in that sense, we're not looking at plagiarism, but copying or cheating is still an academic integrity concern. So if you see any evidence of that, then the student automatically fails the course. Participation, your positive participation is part of your learning. So participation includes asking questions about course content, answering questions posed in class, making comments that relate to the material in the textbook or in class, and sharing relevant experience. It's learning is evident when you respond to something another student says or constructively disagree. So all that is positive participation. Negative participation is also specified. When you don't attend classes consistently, when you do not read your textbook before class, you talk to your classmates about things that are not a contribution to class discussion and so on. And if you don't like your final grade, this is after the course is done, you can always appeal the process. There's a link provided, or you can copy paste the link as well. That is all about the course outline. Do any of you have any questions about the course outline? Okay, seeing none. So a couple of suggestions I have for all the students in this class. I don't necessarily remember how each of you performed in research literacy, or if all of you were there for that course. This is a course where, again, it's very conceptual. So there are really no marks for memorizing and reproducing. It's the concepts that you'll have to understand, because your multiple choice questions are based completely on understanding. So even if you had an open book, it would be of very little value if you didn't understand what was going on. So make sure you ask those questions. The other thing is to stay on top of this course. What I would suggest is pay attention in lecture. That's valuable, very, very valuable. And try to read the chapter the same day the lecture is done, so you can cohesively put what you learn in class along with what you read. And you're kind of, it's called layered learning. So you're actually putting those things together. If you do this consistently, basically you're spending about an hour in class and perhaps an hour and a half reading. But if you do this consistently, by the time the course is done, by the time it's ready, time for a midterm or whatever, you're not spending a large amount of time studying, because you're all set. This is one course you wouldn't have to worry about. There is the potential, excuse me, there is the potential to get a very high mark on this course, because it is very objective. The learning is assessed very objectively for the most part. So, I've had students get 100% of the course. But there's also the possibility, because it is so objective and there's no subjectivity for the marking scheme, there's also the possibility of getting a very poor mark, because things will either be marked as right or wrong. And it's not a hard course. It's not intended to be a hard course, but it will require effort. It will require thinking. Okay, so just be mindful of that. Okay, we can minimize this now, and let's go to the lecture component. Any questions so far? Questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention to all of you is I am recording all my lectures. And the reason these lectures are being recorded is Zoom failure, electricity failures, all these are realities of our lives. And if a student, and illnesses or other challenges. So if a student isn't able to attend class, the video will be posted as a YouTube link on D2L that the student can view whenever they can, hopefully before the next class, so that they are able to follow. If you miss a particular class, the way I would mark your class participation is if you sent a couple of relevant comments or questions regarding the course. So if you miss, now I am strongly in favor of class participation, but if you don't have a particular comment for a particular lecture, it's not the worst thing in the world. Typically what I do is, I don't know if all of you can see this, I hang on to a clipboard like this, and what I typically do is I make notes on each lecture as to which student asked a relevant comment and what that, some details of the comment if it's absolutely meaningful and stuff. So it's not just about saying great job. I mean, that those are all positive, affirming your peers' participation and so on. But it's also about like how much thinking, how much reflection are you doing on the content. Okay, so there's a 20% component to that. Anything else? No, that's pretty much all about the course outline and the marking scheme. So I'm done there. If anybody has a question or concern, this would be the time. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and start the lecture. Okay. So, well, we have spoken about knowledge previously in research literacy, and your textbook, most textbooks have somewhat of a cohesive description of knowledges. Your textbook for this course defines knowledge as the description. It's a description of a state or operation of some aspect of the universe upon which individuals, which is you and I, or groups can act. So knowledge is something that empowers us to move forward. Knowing that there is ice when you go out for your daily morning walk will let you make the decision to put on cleats so that you have better grip. Knowing that it's going to be minus 20 degrees outside with a cold wind will let you make the decision to use a down jacket or a warmer jacket than you would normally use. So it's a description of information. I'm going to turn my video off um, so that we can actually act. Okay. Now, more importantly, knowledge is a social construct. And what do you think that means? Anybody want to volunteer? Why is knowledge, why is it a product of social processes? Why is it the property of social groups?
Because our reality is socially defined.
Sorry, could you say that again, Suzanne? And then
Our reality is socially defined.
Our reality is socially different.
Defined.
Defined. Okay, our reality is social. Oh, I like that. So that kind of forms a framework in which we define our reality. That's what you're saying, eh? Yep. Okay. Steph?
Yeah, similarly, I would say like what it means to me is that there's no such thing as kind of truly objective knowledge. When we're perceiving a phenomenon or evaluating, analyzing it, we're always bringing to bear like a series of filters based on our previous experiences and that are informed by, you know, society, gender roles, things like that.
Yeah, they're all social constructs. Absolutely, spot on. And it's interesting when we think about the product. Society often decides what will be investigated, what will be studied. Also, a bigger way to think about this is when we think of all the research capacity we have in Canada or any country of the world. Research groups try to find out information, and in order to find out this information, what they do is they apply for funding. Okay. We have a comment. So when they apply for funding, they have to write a proposal which has some public interest. Otherwise, it's not going to get funded most places, right? So in the end, it's the population that defines what gets researched, what gets studied, and what kind of information you end up with. We have something in the chat window which won't show up, but I will check that after. And then becomes the role of authority. The issue with authority is, now this is general public. Most of you have taken a research literacy course or experienced some sort of research exposure in your last 2.5 years or 3 years at Laurentian. There can be different kinds of authorities, right? The authority based on position. And a typical example of authority based on position is, as children, our parents are our authority based on position. When our parents ask us to do one or the other thing, sometimes there is the expertise of having spent more years going around the sun. But sometimes it is because that's because I tell you so. You know, that there's really, it's not a decision based on expertise. It's an authority based on a different power structure. So Then there's authority-based. So several examples of authority-based on position is a political leader trying to convince a bunch of people about medical decisions. For example, a very well-known politician south of the border was praising the role of hydroxychloroquine, a malarial drug for the treatment of COVID. And perhaps the consumption of bleach and the use of ultraviolet radiation and so on. But it was based on his authority, his position, that he was promoting these absolute falsehoods. Then there's authority based on knowledge. So you have people who have authority because they're experts in a certain field, because they understand the area, they're well immersed in the subject. And this is something that you've seen in research literacy, where you have triangulation based on experts. So when there's an authority who has authority based on knowledge, it's a different kind of expertise. So what we are going to look at in this course is the research process. And research is a process. Anything is a process when it has a bunch of clearly delineated steps. The steps are easy to understand. And no matter who it is, if you go through the same steps, you are likely to come up with the same outcome. And that's why it's called a process. So part of the research process is to evaluate the opinions of authorities. Sometimes you can have two authorities who are authorities based on knowledge. And they have their own opinion, their own perspective, their own theories on how something should operate and some things should not. Part of what research does is it evaluates the opinions of the authorities themselves. And the research process is a little different from research literacy in the sense that it allows the researcher to actually conduct research to evaluate the two different or multiple perspectives. And the research process helps us settle disputes about the nature and the operation of some aspect of the universe. So for example, this is an example from your textbook. They give the example of two people having a discussion about whether fatty foods contribute to heart attack or not. And both of them start to have a debate about different reasons as to why fatty foods may not contribute to an elevated level of heart disease. So that's the example that they start off with, and they repeatedly use this example in your textbook as a discussion between two people moving forward. So as I mentioned, research it's a process. It's guided by rules and principles so that we can make confident statements based on our knowledge of the world, based on our observations, so we can make a strong statement. Everybody uses research. So if you're thinking, some of you were honest enough to tell me, oh, what do I need to know research methods for? I might never do it. Everybody uses research, okay? Even if you aren't a researcher, the work you do, sometimes you are collecting data, sometimes you are simply participating as participant in research projects. Sometimes you're required to read stuff which has been evaluated by somebody else and they want to tell you that there's a certain conclusion. And if you don't understand the research process, you're not likely going to be able to question that. So everybody uses research, whether it's corporations, social workers, professionals, government agencies, long-term care, so on. So we have discussed that knowledge is a social product, and there are things that make it even more understandable as to why it is a social product. Several hundred years ago, before Copernicus, to his misfortune, discovered that the Earth is round and revolves around the sun. I think he got imprisoned for that. I don't remember what the details are. Galileo was more fortunate. He didn't have those challenges, but Copernicus was the first one to propose that the Earth actually isn't flat. First one in Europe to propose. There are other parts of the world where it was determined that the Earth is not flat, even perhaps 3rd, 4th century BC. But anyway, so it was acknowledged that the Earth is flat, and if you sailed a ship to the edges of the Earth, your ship would fall off, or something to that extent. So it was a social product. Everybody believed that the Earth was flat, and that's just how it was. Mental health challenges were considered to be due to evil spirits. There would be, even now, there are cultures on this planet which use exorcism rituals to treat mental illness. Um, and just a familial anecdote. I have a cousin who was diagnosed with schizophrenia several years ago. His parents, both educated professionals, first took him in India because there are traditional ways of doing things. The first thing they did when he started hearing voices is they took him to an exorcist to have him exorcised rather than take him to a physician. He's now being medically treated, and they're having some success with his management of schizophrenia. But the understanding that evil spirits cause mental health challenges is still quite prevalent in several cultures on our planet. It's a social product. It's a creation of that society around them. Now, this is quite, if everyone is thinking about the Salem witch trial, which was probably 250 years ago in Massachusetts, where women were accused of practicing witchcraft and burned. The prosecution of people for practicing black magic or witchcraft is still ongoing. It's just different cultures that are doing it now. Again, the point I'm making is the knowledge we have is constructed by our society around us, and what we accept for knowledge is quite variable depending on where we live and what we do. So that being said, a lot of this knowledge is traditional knowledge. Does traditional knowledge hinder human inquiry? Does it stop us from being inquisitive and asking questions and questioning existing knowledge itself? And that's an interesting idea. What do you think? What do you folks think? Does our existing knowledge stop us from asking more questions? You're on mute, Tree.
I think it does sometimes.
Do you want to elaborate?
Well, you can be closed-minded after you've decided. I think you even said it at the beginning. Once you've decided that something is a certain way, I have a friend who says, that's the way I'm built. I can't learn to be another way. Yep. So I think sometimes some people become closed-minded and they won't look at other knowledge. They just won't.
So that would apply to traditional 100%. Steph?
I was going to say, I think it can go both ways, and I think it very much depends on the attitude we take towards pre-existing knowledge. If we view knowledge as tentative, then I don't think that sort of what is already known or thought to be known will hinder further inquiry. And I'm thinking of like the example that kind of sprung to mind. You know, there's sort of an endless debate about religion versus science, and you know, does religion kind of hinder scientific inquiry? And again, I think sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. You know, like defenders of kind of the religious point of view have pointed out that much of Western science did spring from kind of, you know, a Christianity-informed worldview that the universe was something knowable and unfolded, you know, according to regular patterns of cause and effect, which is sort of a really necessary assumption if you're going to do any kind of scientific inquiry. That was it.
Okay, good comment. So thank you both. Yeah, so traditional knowledge can hinder human inquiry. It doesn't have to. It depends on the individual, obviously. It also depends on how content people are. So in the end, we have to understand what knowledge helps us do. Knowledge helps us make decisions, and that's what we have to understand. If an individual or a society is quite comfortable making decisions that benefit them consistently, traditional knowledge is not questioned because there is no reason to question it, no reason to knock it, and they continue on that trajectory. The only time they start questioning is when there is a series of outcomes that either an individual or a community cannot work with. That's when people typically start to change what they do. So some of you might know this example. Um, so, but we'll still have the class weigh in. A full moon results in weird behavior, lunatics. Professionals who work in regional care facilities, including hospitals and prisons, claim that residents become increasingly agitated during a full moon. So it's an interesting observation, and I've heard people say that. I've heard people say that my dogs go crazy when there's a full moon. I don't know about dogs, so I can't. Well, I have a dog. My dog doesn't do it, so I wouldn't be able to comment on that. But just this comment alone. Some of you might know the answer, so perhaps if you already know the answer to this, don't let the cat out of the bag. But folks who may not know can perhaps attempt to speculate on what you think of this comment.
I can agree with it because based on my indigenous culture, we believe that a full moon causes certain phenomena. As well, I had a schizophrenic father, and around a full moon time, his behaviors would increase. So my knowledge is based on what I know, but it may not be actual fact. Yeah.
Thank you, Suzanne. I appreciate your perspective. And I'll share the East Indian perspective for you. I'm East Indian. We have very strong belief in astrology. Our astrologers have been mapping the stars for, I don't know, 6,000 to 7,000 years. And there are very complicated charts with very complicated mathematical formulas talking about the specific role of the gravitational force of each star, each nebula, all of these things in a person's life. And those are the things that determine what's a good time to be married, what's a good time to, pray to a certain god, and do this and do that. So there are many, many, many very complicated rules based on celestial bodies. Okay, so there's a very strong tradition of believing in the power of all of these celestial bodies on the human condition. So for a lot of very traditional East Indians who believe in our traditional knowledge, this would appeal right away to them. So that's the background to this. But I don't want to answer it yet. I'm hoping somebody else jumps in, has a comment, unless everybody else knows what I'm going to say next, and that's fine too.
It's Tree. I have a comment.
Go ahead, Tree.
I just wonder, has it been studied?
That's a great question. And part of my answer will address that. So that's a very good question. Okay. Anybody else? Comments? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead. So this has been studied, Tree, to answer your questions. And the funny part is nurses, doctors, social workers, PSWs, police officers, wardens, everybody swear by it. There's a full moon and then we see more cases. But most of the scientific literature, this is a little bit dated, dispels the myth of so-called lunar effect. Lieber in 1978 looked at human aggression and the lunar synodic cycle, and he claims there is no impact. There are subsequently, this is more than 40 years old, so this is a 42-year-old piece of work. But if you use Google Scholar and try to find relevant articles, what you will discover is that it is reinforced that there's no such thing as a lunar effect as per the studies that have looked at it. What does this do for traditional knowledge? I don't know, because it's interesting. There are traditional researchers and scholars who will strongly argue that there is an impact, but our Western scientific knowledge fails to acknowledge or does not acknowledge the same, because we don't see that in our evidence. And that's a challenge that particularly in Canada that we have to work with, because we recognize that there are many ways of learning and knowing. One is the Western way of learning and knowing, the research process and how we do it. And then in Canada, we have our Aboriginal or First Nation people who have their own ways of knowing. And sometimes the information that you get is conflicting. And then which knowledge do you use to act upon or make a decision, right? So, and that's just food for thought. I don't think there's a fixed answer to that. It's just something to think about. sorry, the pop-up came up incorrectly. But anyway, the point is, now what I want to do now is I'm going to see if I can pair you up, if I can do the breakout room properly. And we'll have people share a little bit. So we use the full moon example. Now, what we'll do is let's see if we can do the breakout here. We will breakout rooms. Where do we do that? Oh, there we go. So we have about 14. Let's split you up into 5 breakout rooms, and the rooms are automatically created. I'm going to open all breakout rooms. Okay. So go ahead and join your breakout rooms. And what I'm going to do is Momina, go ahead and join breakout room 4. Jessica and Misha, you're in breakout room 5. Just see if you got the message.
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did. Yeah,
Okay,
I think we're
super.
good.
Okay, thanks. Hey, Misha, are you done with your room? Ah,
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Apologies for being so late.
It's all right. Connection issues?
I had connection issues, but also there was just some health issues going on, doctor's appointment, things like that. So
Okay,
yeah, here now.
no problem. Do you want to go ahead and jump into breakout room 5? Misha is there. There's a little group activity that,
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Sounds good. Hello, Professor. Yeah, okay, let's do that, Misha.
He said, no, that's not possible. We're all here. Not on
Oh,
mute.
hi. Sorry, I was muted. So I was trying to speak while I was muted and doesn't usually work very well. So
No.
everyone's back. Good. No, it doesn't. Okay, so let's work group by group because it's more efficient that way. Does any group want to go first? Any fact that you believed to be true, and then on further quick 2-minute research, you found that it's not totally substantiated.
Our group can go.
Okay, go, Artika.
All right, so our myth was you can't swim 30 minutes after you eat. So you have to wait 30 minutes before you go swimming.
Okay, and what did you find out?
Steph,
I'll go. Yeah. No, we did a quick internet search and we found sort of a comprehensive scientific review. It has been studied, and
Okay.
not recently, but I mean, it was found, that there's absolutely no basis to the myth. They've done all kinds of experiments on it. Like, and no matter what the time interval, there's absolutely no association between eating before swimming and having cramps or any kind of fatal or non-fatal drowning incidents. So as a result, sort of like things like the Red Cross and stuff don't recommend, like, don't issue that warning. We just thought that was so interesting because it's such a prevalent myth. We all heard a lot in our childhoods, and it's still circulating. I heard it from my parents, I heard it from swim instructors and things like that, and it's just not true.
True. I've heard it from my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you. That excellent. Good. Who wants to go next?
I will.
Kathleen.
So it's a little more of a really childish sort of young belief. When your parents fed you apples, don't eat the apple seeds because the seeds are going to grow into your stomach and become trees. So this is absolutely false because your stomach acid would go to town on it before it got anywhere. Although we did find something that said the nomadic culture would just excrete it out as they walked down the road, and the apple trees would grow from that.
Ah, interesting. What we find out. Well, thank you for that, Kathleen. Who's next? Tree. You muted, Tree.
I do that all the time. I don't know why. Okay, so in winter, it is colder when the skies are clear. So this was just, I brought that up as an observation that I personally wanted to check out.
Okay.
And so what we learned is that it's the other way around. When it's colder out, so when it's colder, when the air is colder, the air cannot hold as much moisture, so it can't form clouds. So that's why it's clearer at the same time that it's colder.
Okay, so it was just a flip of cause and effect.
Yes.
Okay, as opposed to, okay, yeah, no, and we all have these different constructs. Thank you for that, Tree. I think we have 2 more groups to go, and I don't remember who was in which group, so I'm counting on
Hi.
Scouts. Hi, hey, Misha.
Hi. Okay, I don't know if I understood appropriately, but so I just put, so fact that I believe to be true is that care partnering relationships work best when the care partner recognizes the individual's personhood. Some sources of information about those facts, so who said so, like RNAO, the Alzheimer's Society of Canada, the Alzheimer's Association, a bunch of different places, but also based on further research, you can kind of see that that is true. However, the entire basis of the personhood can be changed based on, the entire, form of the personhood can be changed based on the cultural needs of the individual. For example, there's a specific personhood for Indigenous people. Sorry, so I don't know if I understood that correctly, but I just kind of tried to answer the questions there.
Well, I mean, you investigated something, and you investigated your, the theory you had on personhood, and you came up with some answers. So the exercise was done correctly. Was it quirky like some of the things we found? Probably not. But that was not necessarily a requirement that it had to be quirky. How many of us knock on wood? What's the basis for knocking on wood to keep something good going? We all do all these crazy things. Sorry.
In long-term care, we knock on wood every single day when somebody says we are full staff.
Yep, knock on wood, cross your fingers. Facts, we may not confess to it being true, but we do it, right? Okay. Who's next? We have Catherine. Have you heard from your group?
Yeah, so we kind of maybe not understood it completely either, but we kind of talked about like, is manifestation real, like the act of manifestation? So some people like speak things into existence for it to like come true, and a lot of the times people like look at their zodiac signs to like determine what they want to do. And when we looked on the internet, it could like manifestation could be a lot of different things or have a lot of different rules. It's not just like coming across like say a TikTok and like thinking like that's what's going to be brought into your life, but some say that some claim that it like doesn't work, and then others claim that you need to connect with like the spiritual world first for it to work. And for example, like writing down your desire that you want to come true like precisely 33 times for like 3 days, and finishing that with like all this manifests and better. So I don't know, it's just some people believe in it and some people don't. So it was just kind of interesting to.
And that's the stuff we want to go after, right? Stuff that you believe to be true, but there's nothing to really substantiate it. Cassidy?
Yeah. Just to go off of that a bit, we were talking about manifestation, and it brought me to human design, because I previously actually paid for a human design reading myself.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's up, it's your belief or not your belief, right? So I obviously believe it because I paid for it.
Right.
She explained it like it was on your resume. And then she explains kind of what your weaknesses are based on what time you were born at, your sign, and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you research it, a lot of people say, you know, is it real? Is it fake? Is it just because you're telling yourself it's real, so it seems to be real? Even some people say here, is it a scam or is it a cult? Which is kind of interesting. So I kind of want to look more into that. But yeah.
Yeah, and there are many things. So this is not meant as a criticism. We all have different beliefs that we have in different stages of our life, and some we give up on, some we hang on to. The thing is, a lot of it is and may not be scientifically validated the way we look at it. And so it was just interesting to go through this exercise, have everybody spend a couple of minutes thinking about what it is that they believe and why. The other thing that we are going to often look at in this course, and you learned this from research literacy, is to how to critically evaluate different sources. When you evaluate sources from gray literature, then you have an acronym CRAAP, which is currency and reliability and so on. It's got 5 different things for the acronym. So one of the exercises that I often have students do is and you can do this at home. I don't think you need to do this right now. I'll post the slide up as well. What you can do is you can go on to a website, see what the topic is about. So I'll post this PowerPoint as well, so you can kind of have all the requirements I'm looking for. Summarize the contents, rate the website, and explain why you like or dislike the website. Actually, you know what? We have a few minutes. So I'm just going to make very broad groups, and all of you can, I'll give you a topic. Let's look at social, well, do I want social isolation? Probably not. Let's talk about, say, red wine and consumption of red wine in older adults. Let's do that. And this is just a website search. You're not doing an academic search, nothing, just a website search. I'll break you off into 3 or 4 groups. So the groups will be larger. Pick a page, do a quick reading, figure out, does it make sense? Or even better, let me do this. Let me share the paper. So what I'm going to do now is, if you can all go on, I'll break you up into groups. If you can go on to D2L, there is a paper there. I believe, yeah, it's this one. So it's the teen sex drama. So go ahead and read it so everyone's on the same page, but we'll have you into groups so you can have your discussions. Okay, so I'm just going to create your breakout rooms very quickly. Breakout rooms, and we'll just have you split into 3 rooms. And so all the rooms are open now. Go ahead and go into your breakout room and you can read the article. It is on D2L. So go on to D2L, find the article, go ahead and read it. And okay, so all of you have been invited. It's a very easy read. PM 12:20. Bye, Tree. I think Tree had to leave, but everyone's back.
No.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
So I'm just finding that when we go into the breakout rooms, we can't see that paper or like that screen. So it's just kind of hard to remember what we're
Oh, what
supposed
the criteria are.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then also if we could just have a little bit more time because we had to read the article.
You know what we'll do is we will discuss this next class because
Okay.
that'll give everybody time. Yeah, it's I didn't realize that it did that little thing, which is not the fun stuff. But I'll also plan on having more time for activities that require reading a few pages. Okay.
Yeah, I just didn't prep or else I would have read it beforehand. But yeah, I just it would be helpful to have it because that's why the first one I didn't know if I was quite right, and then this one like we didn't have time to answer the questions. But even when we got to talking about it, we didn't know exactly what the criteria was. We couldn't remember. So
Okay, you know it's on D2L, so go ahead, read it sometime before Thursday, and perhaps we'll start Thursday's discussion with evaluating this. So what I will do is I'll put my PowerPoint up so you have access to this evaluation sheet, so you know what we're looking for.
thank you so much.
No problem. We are at 12:40. Class ends at 12:50. Usually I give between 5 and 10 minutes to discuss any concerns about the topic, any questions, anything else that you want to chat about. Not always. Sometimes we are running short of time, so we don't get to do that. But today being the first class, we have a little bit of extra time. I always also try not to run over class. But we will have a hard start at 11:30 from next class. So please plan. Well, you know, I don't know if we'll have a hard start. I'll think about it. But please try to be on time so we're not inconveniencing our peers. Okay. Any questions about the content? This is all based on chapter 1 of your textbook. If you don't have your textbook yet, please go ahead and order it. Misha.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know if I missed this. I see that you're recording. So will you be posting the lectures?
Yes. Yes.
So should we not be able to attend a class, then we can email you comments?
Yes, you should be, because that's the only way I know if you have familiarized yourself with the material.
Okay, yeah, I'm just wondering, I'm still working full time, so I'm going
Yep.
to be doing as frequently as I possibly can. I thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And we have a couple of, and even if for the students who regularly attend, if you're unwell or if you have an appointment, you can't make it to class, then you know that's how you demonstrate participation. Make a relevant comment or question that's relevant to the class, and we'll address it in next class. So it'll still be part of your participation itself.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. Something in the chat window. Cassidy, I can always let you know what you missed as well. Oh, yes. Oh, to everybody. Okay, well, that's helpful, Cassidy. Okay, well, I don't see any comments from anybody, and no comments, no questions. So you are all free to head out. All the links to the lectures will be posted on D2L under a separate column saying lectures. Now, the videos are on YouTube, and I have kept them public. They will stay public till the 15th of April. After that, like in my previous courses, that link to all these videos disappears just because we don't necessarily need to advertise who's in class and who's not in class and all of those different details. Okay. If for any reason you feel that you don't want to want that video out there in the public domain with your name on it, feel free to send me an email, and what we'll do is you can decide a code name for yourself, which only I and you will know. So if there's a video and you don't have to broadcast your likeness, so there's nothing confidential out there, including your name or anything of that sort. In any case, the only thing, you guys don't show up on the videos. It's mostly my lecture slides. Every once in a while, a name might pop up or a likeness might pop up for a few seconds, but that's mostly it. All right, well,
Would you be able to stay on so I could speak to you for a second after class?
Sure.
That'd be really good.
No problem. No problem. We have 5 more minutes to class, but there's no more class material to be discussed at this point. I don't think. You can. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. We'll talk about this next.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Have a good day.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks, Anita. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cassidy, thank you very much. Thursday, very good.
Sorry, I was just hoping to ask something too. So Misha, you can go ahead first if you'd like.
I just have to talk to him about some of my courses. So.
Oh, I see. Sorry about that. I
No,
apologize.
no worries.
Here's what we can do. Huda, do you want to just sign yourself out and then maybe sign back in about 10 minutes or so?
Oh yeah, of course, totally. Sorry about that.
I'll still be here on this website, in this virtual classroom, so you can come back in about 10 minutes, and then depending, maybe we can address Misha's concerns quickly or slowly.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
for sure. Sorry, I didn't know about that. Thank you guys so much.
No, that's okay.
No, it's okay.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
No problem. Bye.
Thank
See you in
you.
10.
But you're also still recording.
Thank you for reminding me that. That's a good thing. Hold on. Let's stop that now.